everybody, and welcome to another fruitful podcast of the Shot Digital Pharmaversity. Today, our focus is about the very important topic of sterility, and this particularly in the field of ready-to-use primary packaging. My name is Carolyn, and today with me is Dr. Robert Lindner. With him, I will talk about different aspects that you should be aware of when handling sterile primary packaging. But before we start, let me shortly introduce Robert to you. Robert is Global Product Manager in the field of sterile solutions at Shot Pharmaceutical Systems. He joined Shot 2 years ago, and before his current position, he collected experiences also in international project management. So let me welcome you, Robert, and I hope we have you here today with us. So hello.
Hello, Carolyn. Great to be back in the Shot podcast.
Perfect. Nice to have you here today. So directly start, Robert. Robert, sterility is a topic that is highly relevant. And to start with a joint understanding of this topic, can you please let me and us know if sterility is a binary parameter, so sterile or unsterile, or how would you say is it defined?
So in let's say very general terms, sterility means the absence of any viruses, bacteria, or other viable microorganisms. But if you want to put it more precisely, then the sterility of any product or any object is defined by the probability of a viable microorganism on the product after it has been sterilized. And I think that's very crucial to understand, that it is a probability, because it is impossible to guarantee 100% sterility, but we really have to acknowledge that it's only a probability, and therefore in the industry this is widely referred to as the sterility assurance level. The sterility assurance level gives you, let's say, the mathematical odds that you have a sterile product or a sterile object in the end. And this can be assured by reliable processing, so we can qualify and validate sterilization processes in order to be, say, highly confident that the odds of having a compromised product, that means that you have any surviving bacteria or microorganisms, spores, viruses, etc., on your product are very, very low. And to give you a number on that, so the industry standard for primary packaging containers that are sterile, the sterile assurance level there expected is at least 10 to the power of -6. So that means that you have a 1 in a million chance to catch a non-sterile product. And I think that already shows you that sterility is really a key parameter for primary packaging.
Okay, thank you for this answer. Well, in addition to knowing what we're talking about, can you please let us also shortly know why sterility as a topic is so important, and at least to my feeling is becoming more and more important in the awareness of people?
So, of course, it's the key parameter for safe medical devices and pharmaceutical containers and pharmaceutical solutions. As I said, sterility means that you don't have any viable microorganisms. And if you turn that around and think about what does it mean if I have viable microorganisms in a pharmaceutical solution or in a medical device that is, for example, being implanted into a body, I think it becomes quite clear that this is a huge, or this would be a huge problem, right? I mean, nobody would like to get an infection from a medical product with a maybe with a multi-resistant bacterium that then causes additional problems. And in the end, of course, this could be life-threatening, right? And this risk needs to be reduced as much as possible. And therefore, we, of course, need to ensure in the first place that we use clean materials for all products going into the finished pharmaceutical. But of course, we need to subject these materials to qualified and validated sterilization processes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. That's clear. I mean, if it's getting, or if it can become a life or death influencing factor, it's definitely very important, or definitely to be seen as a high important topic. So when looking at the sterility, can you, Robert, please let me know where in the full production process do we need to look deeper? So is it in the production of the primary packaging itself? Is it more in the handling afterwards, the logistics, the fill and finish? So please help us to understand which parts are the relevant ones when it comes to sterility, when you have a look at the process steps.
So maybe first, of course, since producing pharmaceuticals and processing these is very complex, and sterility is so important, as I just pointed out. I think we first have to say, or we have to align on that of course each and every process step needs to be very tightly controlled with regards to sterility and contamination. But of course, at certain process steps, it's let's say a bit more crucial that you really have a greatly reduced risk. And if you look at the process chain, especially from our shot side, so from the manufacturing of primary packaging containers, until the pharmaceutical really reaches the patient, then I would say sterility is most critical directly before filling, and then of course to assure sterility until it reaches the patient. So of course, we at SHOT take great care that we have as little contamination as possible during the preceding production steps, so the hot forming, especially, because of course, I think it's a no-brainer to say that if we assure or make sure that it's not, that a contamination or contaminant is not in the packaging in the first place, then we don't have to worry about being able to remove it during cleaning and sterilization. And if you then look at the traditional filling processes, so where we supply bulk containers, so that means non-sterile containers to the fill and finish processor, he would then subject the containers to a washing cycle and to a depyrogenation cycle. So this means he will transport them through a heating tunnel over a specific period of time, and by this rendering the objects sterile and ensuring really this sterility level of at least 10 to the power of -6. If you then look at the ready-to-use value stream or ready-to-use containers, the containers reach the fill and finish line already in a pre-washed and depyrogenated and sterilized state. So we at SHOT, we pre-wash and depyrogenate the containers, and they're packed in a secondary packaging that protects the sterility once we subjected the containers to a sterilization cycle afterwards.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say, how can sterility be measured and assured after the sterilization cycle?
So measuring the sterility is, let's say, something, yeah, not easy or not really possible. What is typically done and what is of course accepted is that these the let's say efficacy of these sterilization cycles are measured with biological indicators. And what you're doing there is you have a specimen that contains a defined number of microorganisms, and then you run them with your primary packaging containers through this sterilization cycle, and then you check afterwards whether the microbial sample has still colony forming units left, and if not, then you can say, okay, my sterility assurance level has been reached. Of course, once the sterilization cycle is over, you have, let's say, kind of a shelf life of the product, and then this probability comes, or statistics again come into play, that you cannot directly measure the sterility, but of course you can do a lot of steps to ensure that if the product is handled in a certain way, that the sterility is assured, for example, over a time of 3 years.
Okay, interesting. Can you even evaluate a little bit deeper here? So what are the concrete steps that one can take to protect the sterility of the ready-to-use packaging? I mean, once it leaves the shot plant until it reaches really the aseptic filling environment?
So concrete steps, of course, are especially if you're looking at the logistics. So of course, it needs to the sterile containers need to be transported from the sterilization facility to the in the end aseptic isolator. So of course, during transport, you need to assure that that, let's say, the roads are not too bumpy, right? So that that the containers are not shaken around in order, for example, to reduce the risk of mechanical damaging. Of course, we do transport studies with our primary packaging containers within the secondary packaging. So we do standardized tests with these, but yeah, this, let's say, in very extreme cases, this could of course potentially deviate from reality. So I think there it's really crucial to ensure that during this whole transporting and handling, of course, also in the pharmaceutical facility at the end, that the sterility is protected. Normally this is done by adding a second, let's say, surface decontamination step before locking in products into the aseptic isolator.
Okay, so these are very clear points that you just mentioned, and that can be taken as, let me say, maybe a guide to know what to think about if you want to keep the highly important sterility of the packaging product then. So yeah, having said this, I think, Robert, that we are already at the end of our time for today. And so at the end of our podcast, I would like to ask you, is there any message you would like to give to our audience at the end, maybe to summarize, or any other message that you would like to give to them?
Yeah, I think it's really crucial to assure sterility. I mean, I think that I think I have made that quite clear. And I think additionally, because regulatory bodies are ever increasing, of course, and they want to mitigate the risks of unsterile products as much as possible. And I think this is in the interest of everybody in the industry. Of course, it's of highest interest to the patients in the end. And I think there it's really crucial to have a validated solution that really protects the sterility from end to end. So from the point of leaving the sterilization chamber until it reaches the aseptic isolator. And yeah, there we really need to ensure the sterility and protect the sterility in order to mitigate the risk of contaminating the pharmaceutical products in the end, and yeah, ensure that we deliver safe medication to the people out there.
Great. Thank you, Robert, for this summarizing message, I would say. So yeah, and with this, I can only thank you, not only for the summary, but also for the entire time you took today for having with us this podcast and to roughly inform our audience on the sterility topic. I think it gave some valuable insights and thoughts for the people out there. And yeah, a very big thank you from my side, Robert.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Perfect. And yeah, I would also like to thank our audience out there for taking the time. And I hope it was as informative for you as it was for me. So yeah, feel free to also check out one of our other podcasts or join in for one of the next Pharmaversity webinar sessions that you can find on the link www.shot.com/digital-pharmaversity. And yeah, with this, I would like to thank you and would like to say goodbye. Bye-bye.